We saw it.
I mean, you know what? This is what drives me crazy, Tom, is I saw it, and I don't even know who Ludwig whatever is. It just takes somebody with some common sense to be able to see this. And I have to tell you, I'm reading your book, and the elephant in the room that nobody will talk about is the Fed.
Yeah.
And I know as soon as you start talking about the Fed, people's eyes glaze over. Beyond that, they also immediately start to think of Ron Paul, who is painted as an absolute crazy man. And I don't agree with Ron Paul on everything, but when it comes to the economy, he's right on it.
Exactly right. Yeah, and you're right, Glenn. I mean, talking about the Fed, most Americans probably don't even know much about it, and they've been led to believe that they can never figure it out. And basically, now's the time. We don't have that luxury. You got to figure it out. It's not that hard. Part of the reason I wrote Meltdown is so that people could understand what the Fed is, what it does, because the destructive consequences of what the Fed does are always blamed on the free market. And that's not fair, and it's got to stop.
Well,
and so, yes, we had Fannie and Freddie. Yes, we had the Community Reinvestment Act. But if you hadn't had the Federal Reserve System lowering interest rates to insane levels, you would not have launched this boom in the first place. And what Hayek said won the Nobel Prize for, so he's obviously not a nut, although some nuts have won the Nobel Prize, but it was that... look at Paul Krugman. We won't mention any names, but I mean, he said.
Well, that was the one that came to mind. Sure, it was Paul Krugman.
Oh, of course. So I mean, the prize has been debased, you understand, over the years, just like the currency.
Yeah.
But as Hayek said, if you just push interest rates, if your central bank, like the Fed, just pushes interest rates to these low levels, the result is basically the economy starts doing irrational things. Investors make irrational investments that aren't going to pan out. That there aren't enough resources in the economy to sustain them all.
It's exactly what happened with the housing.
Yeah, exactly.
The housing, we were pushed, they pushed this low rate. People went, oh my gosh, look at this. It started this ball rolling where everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at how fast everything is increasing in value. I've got to buy. It was a bubble.
Exactly. And therefore, there's inevitably a bust. It cannot go on forever. It's like a heroin addict thinking that he can just keep increasing his intake of heroin. That'll solve his problems. And because the central bank is the same way. We get on this artificial boom, and what's the only solution they can think of is just more. Whereas we know we need to go cold turkey when you're a drug addict, and we have gone on this artificial credit binge for so long, and so it distorts the economy. It makes people go into businesses that really they shouldn't go into.
Okay.
I mean, Peter Schiff is a common frequent guest on your program. Schiff says it's like when the circus comes to town, and everybody comes to see the circus, and they start going to restaurants in the area. The local restaurant owner would be making a mistake if he said, well, I better build an addition to accommodate all these people, because they're not going to be there forever. They're going to leave when the circus leaves. Well, that's like what the Fed does. It makes businesses start up that really don't make any sense in the long run. And so you've got all these sort of phony, baloney, zombie businesses, and all these stimulus packages are intended to keep them going. We need to liquidate them and get sound businesses going in their place.
So how do we get rid of the Fed?
Well, I'm happy to say, Jim Rogers, that great investment guy, he actually predicts that there will be no Fed in 10 years. Now that
may I say, now this is Jim Rogers was a guy, he's a brilliant man.
Yeah.
He was a partner of Soros for a while. And a really smart guy. But if I'm not mistaken, he also has moved to Singapore because he's not too sure we'll be around.
Yeah, he decided in 2007 at the height of the boom to sell his house and move to where he feels the future is in Asia. Because I think he feels like in the West we're just going to see the dead hand of government. We're just going to see those few profitable firms that are going to be left are going to be saddled with the responsibility for taking care of all the losers in the economy in terms of all the businesses that should go out of business. They're going to stay artificially propped up. You can't have a successful economy like that. So he saw the writing on the wall. He wants his kids to grow up in a prosperous environment. And what a shame, what a shame that you have to, I would never leave. I just can't imagine living anywhere else, but what a shame he was put in that position. But how do we put a stop to this? It's doing what you're doing and writing books and just telling the population this is not a fated existence, that we have to have a central bank that is a lender of last resort and can bail out all the losers, and
Tom, nobody, I can't believe it. You'll be called a kook. I'm having you on, and I believe Burton is going to be on tonight with you, along with Steve Forbes. And I'm going to have you guys on. We're going to talk about this stuff, and I guarantee you Oh, yes, it's a crazy show. It's another McCooks getting rid of the Fed. And there is nobody that will actually say these things in enough frequency to be able to get this thing to move. And now you've got the government literally in bed with these banks, and they are, I mean, we're seeing mob-style tactics. How do you release the death grip? How do you get that death grip from around our neck?
Well, partly with humor, partly with reminding people that the very same people who say that we're cranks are the ones who had no idea this crisis was coming, who have absolutely no idea what to do about it, who at a time when the Fed was creating more dollars between 2000 and 2007 than had been created in the whole history of the Republic, these people thought that's just perfectly normal. There'll be no negative consequences to that. We got the Fed chairman, Ben Bernanke, said that by the end of 2008, the housing market should rebound. We got record foreclosures. We got these people saying that the economy is in great shape. Alan Greenspan said you should take out adjustable rate mortgages. And he and Bernanke said there is no housing bubble. And Bernanke even said, my regulators investigated the mortgage market in 2006 and 7, and we found that it's better than ever. Those are the cranks, because they've been wrong on everything. We at least have the merit of having been right. We called this, and we've consistently been right. And the reason I wrote Meltdown was to go after people who themselves didn't see this coming and have the nerve to blame this downturn on the free market, as if it's the free market's fault that interest rates were pushed down by the government's crummy central bank.
Okay, let me ask you quick, and then I got to take a break. How long do you think we have before this thing really comes crashing down?
It's, I don't know. I know that seems like a cop-out, but the timing, you can't ever really know. Ludwig von Mises was the great economist of the 20th century. He predicted the Great Depression in 1928 at a time when everybody else said, we're going to be permanently prosperous. The business cycle has been tamed. He said, not so fast. He said, I don't know when. I can't know when, but I can know that if you flood the money with all this phony money, the economy with all this money, and you drive interest rates down, you're starting off a boom that's going to end in a bust. I'm telling you it's going to be a bust. And it came the next year, and he and Hayek were almost the only ones who called it. Okay. So it's very, very hard to get the timing right, but you know it's coming. Okay, Tom, if you don't mind, I'm going to see if we can arrange to have you on the radio show a couple of times this week, and I'd like you to write something for our newsletter, because I think you got it down. That'd be my pleasure.
Yeah, so we'll arrange all of that, and we'll see you tonight at 5 o'clock on the Fox News Channel.
Great, look forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
Back in a second. Then I read another book